This is the Horn Takes Podcast, your very rough around the edges Texas sports talk destination. I'm your host, Sean Redfern. It's Exaggeration Monday, folks. And it was another Red River letdown for the Texas Longhorns. 11 of the last 15, Texas has dropped to the Oklahoma Sooners. We'll get into that and a whole lot more in just a few minutes. But before we do that, man, we talked on the show on Friday about our favorite Red River shootout moments. And one of the things I talked about was friends and family. And I've talked about it. We did a segment earlier on, maybe even before college football started this year, about our favorite things about college football. One of them was the tailgating, and a lot of it is friends and family, right? Like getting to hang out with folks that you haven't seen in a while, catch up with people. You kind of make friends that become your football friends. And one of the guys we met through tailgating down in Austin several years ago passed away suddenly last night. I didn't know David Alfaro all that well. Met him once or twice. We hung out at tailgates once or twice. I think we went and hung out after a game down in Austin with him and a few other folks one night after a game. Had him on Facebook, so I would see things about David. I'm sure he would see things about us. But David was one of our first YouTube subscribers, and he actually reached out to me just a few weeks ago and said, man, I didn't know you were doing a podcast and the show and all that stuff. And it was just kind of a random, Facebook Messenger deal. But anyway, I didn't know a lot about David, but I'll tell you what about David. He definitely liked his Longhorns. So sad to hear about David passing away. Rest easy, David, and hook 'em horns, baby. Check us out on Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, at Horn Takes. You can listen to the podcast at horntakespodcast.buzzsprout.com. It's Exaggeration Monday, and maybe we should call it Meltdown Monday. I have not watched a broadcast. I have not watched any clips of this game so far. All I've done post-game is listen to a Steve Sarkisian press conference on Sunday, and maybe it was on the ride home, so pretty sure it was his Saturday evening after the game press conference. So these are literally my live game drunk Sean thoughts from the game, from being in the stands, watching the game happen in front of me. So forgive any inaccuracies, half-truths. Sometimes when you're at the game and you're drunk, Sean, sometimes you don't do a great job of keeping in touch with reality because drunk Sean fandom takes over. I think this episode's going to have a lot of cussing, so if you got kids in the car, or you usually listen with your kids, or your kids usually listen to this, might want to turn it off. That was absolutely just one of the most brutal losses I've ever been a part of as a Texas fan. Come into the game ranked number 3. After 13 years of watching shitty Texas team after shitty Texas team, it finally looks like Texas has a team that can go on this season and be a contender. They went into Alabama, beat a really good Alabama team on the road. I know a lot of people are still down on Bama, but Bama's the only undefeated team left in the SEC West. And you know what? I don't see anybody in the SEC West that has a good enough defense to beat Alabama. Now, that's not to say that it can't happen, but if I'm gonna look at this game and say, look at this conference or this division and say, who has a legitimately good shot at beating Alabama, I don't think there's anybody. I think LSU will probably be able to score some points, but I don't think they're going to be able to stop Alabama to save their freaking lives. So I still think, despite the rough season that Alabama's had, only having one loss to the University of Texas, still think they're in the catbird seat for the SEC West and probably one of the top 2 teams in the SEC. back to Texas. At times, this team is, we've seen it all season. Not really all season, but most of the season, we've seen this team sort of sleepwalk through games. We've had some games where it was late into the game against, not great opponents before it seeing they wake up and just kind of win with talent. And they win those games comfortably. And we talked about it all year. We've been saying, man, you can't keep doing that. At some point you got to show up for a game. And you got to get started. Maybe it doesn't have to be a fast start a la Baylor. But you got to do better than they have in some of these games when you start playing some of these better opponents. 5-0 coming into this year's Red River Shootout. Kind of, really looking at the schedule and not just looking at the schedule, but looking at the schedule and how this season so far has played out. Obviously Alabama was a big road game that, a lot of Texas fans kind of conceded the loss, and I even picked Alabama, so I guess you could say I conceded a loss. But that was definitely a game I think all Texas fans, realized could have been a loss. Then you go fast forward to KU, and that was a game that a lot of people outside of the Texas fan base thought Texas would lose. Another kind of one of those games where they start a little bit slow and then take off. And then really you look at it in this Oklahoma game against, again, a 5-0 Oklahoma team. We talked about it all last week, how, it's good to see this series be back to this place where both these teams are undefeated coming into this game. This game being a nationally relevant game. So you kind of had to look at this Red River Shootout for Texas and say, this is a really good opportunity to go 6-0. And then kind of be in a really good spot to have an undefeated season. And you definitely would be in the driver's seat for a Big 12 title shot. And then, the ultimate goal, I think, for all these teams now is the playoff. 6-0 with the schedule they've got left. I think playoff was even something that's really attainable, really was attainable. And now I think, it's like an uphill battle just now to get in the Big 12 championship game. I mean, I don't think there's any more room for them to lose a game. West Virginia's undefeated. Oklahoma's undefeated. There's a lot of one-loss teams. So I'm not trying to be negative Nelly here, but Texas got to get it together and got to get it together real quick. It was an opportunity to put some more distance between the Texas program and the Oklahoma program from a trajectory perspective. Kind of an opportunity to back up that 49-0 win last season. We talk all the time. It's a boot on the neck moment. This is the time to take your boot and press down on somebody's neck and don't let them up. Sark had that opportunity. That was one of our big questions of the game. Could Sark seize that opportunity? Disappointing from a recruiting perspective. We're hosting the recruits. Lose a game like that. Play like they did. I don't know. Maybe I've got some ridiculous expectations once we got that 5-0 start. But, man, it sure does. I was just getting to the point. Me and Nash Talks Texas were talking a few weeks ago. It was kind of ahead of that. It was ahead of that Bama game, I believe. And we were talking about, expectations for the season. And Nash made a really good comment. He says, there's too many Texas fans that still have this sort of beaten fan syndrome. And I'm one of those. I got to admit it. And I was just now getting to a place where I felt like I could really believe that this team was ready to take like that type of step. Maybe go on and have an undefeated season. Maybe make the playoff. But certainly for me, and this may wear off. It may wear off over the bye week, but the whole way home, the whole rest of the day, Saturday, the Longhorn PTSD for me is back, baby. I think despite that, though, and despite all the mistakes this team made, despite the fact that, you know, they had so many turnovers, just couldn't get it done in key situations, they somehow figured out a way to take the lead with a minute and 17 seconds, I think. And kudos to Bert Auburn. We were talking about Bert Auburn. We actually weren't talking about him. We were talking about our place kicker. Never mentioned Bert Auburn's name. But he had a rough couple weeks coming into this game, and he kicked great on Saturday. Two long kicks. That last one was nails, dude. Same type of deal he did against Alabama the year before. And interesting, I hadn't thought about it, but that game ended kind of the same way that Alabama game ended. Make a kick, too much time on the clock, can't stop nobody, lose. The majority of this game, you know, once we got into the third quarter, and I can't remember, again, we're talking drunk Sean, live game talking here. I feel like we came out in the second half and got ourselves down by 10 points. At some point in the third quarter, we were down by 10 points. And, man, me and my wife just looked at each other and we're like, God almighty. Like, the way they've been playing so far this game, like, that might have been it right there. So for them to play their way back into it, to me, was kind of a miracle, just the way the game had been going. I felt like the momentum was powerfully in OU's favor almost the entire game. So they get this big kick. And then the defense, who's been a strength, you know, all season, man. Defense has played really good. They just can't answer the bell, man. Just too many mistakes. Really, really loose coverage. We'll talk about that in a minute. OU goes right down the field, gets the game-winning touchdown with 15 seconds left on a busted coverage. Absolute worst time to have a busted coverage, and man, they got it. They had it. Terrible start for Texas in this game. Just absolute. I mean, you always want to avoid turnovers, certainly. And you certainly want to avoid turnovers this early in the game. But you definitely want to do it in a rivalry game. You just can't do that, man. You just cannot turn the ball over on the first drive of the game that deep in your territory. Inexplicably, we start out passing again. We do the sideways pass for negative yards. That seemed to be a staple the last 3 games of this season so far. Sideways pass, nobody blocks, tackle up for a loss. Then we go with an empty set, and which is something we haven't done much this year. And maybe that's why Sark did it. I don't know. But we go with this empty set, giving absolutely no doubt in OU's mind what we're going to do. Gave them nothing to think about. And then Quinn forces a ball in where he shouldn't have tried to force a ball in. Good play by the OU defensive back to sort of get in front of that route. And then I think he kind of bobbled it and ended up bringing it in right before he hit the ground. Doesn't take Oklahoma long. They punch it in the end zone. Complete failure on the little Dylan Gabriel quarterback draw. Catches the ball, makes that little head fake out to the outside like he's going to throw the pass, and then cuts it up the field. Nobody even touches him. Nobody's even close to touching him. What an absolute crazy fucking first 6 minutes of this game. Like, I don't know that I've ever been at a game that was as crazy as the first 6 minutes of this game. I remember like during the game looking up at the clock, which I don't normally do, obviously, in the first quarter. I'm just watching the game. I remember looking at the clock at some point and going, oh, my God, they've only been playing for 6 minutes. And if memory serves, these are all the things that happened in the first 6 minutes of this game. Texas obviously gets the turnover on their first drive. OU takes it in for a touchdown. Texas gets stalled out on their first drive, executes a fake punt, throws a long pass down to the tight end, which, by the way, I missed the fake punt. I had run down to grab beers or go to the bathroom. I think I went to grab beers because I made the comment standing in line that I cannot believe the Cotton Bowl doesn't have TVs in their concession stand area. So you can see there's a few TVs under the main, I don't know what you call it, the main section on the east and west. Well, I know on the west side. I don't even know about the east side. On the west side, for sure, there are some TVs under the overhang, but there are none in any of the concession stands. Again, that I'm aware of. Which is absolutely absurd in 2023. If you're going to make me stand in this long-ass line to get concessions, at least have the game on so I can see what the hell's going on. But the cool part is, with the 50-50 split, you can always tell if something good has happened for your team or something bad has happened to your team just by where the crowd noise is coming from. And so I remember running down the steps real quick. I think it was third down. Maybe it was already fourth down. And then I just hear the Texas side erupt. So I know something cool happened. Executed a fake punt. I still don't know what that even looks like. I heard it was really cool. And then they throw a long pass to the tight end that he possibly fumbles. I believe it was Gunnar Helm. I missed that play. I saw him reviewing it. I came up right at the end of it. Right at the end of the live play, I think. And he fumbles the ball or almost fumbles the ball. They review that. A couple plays later, maybe the very next play, I can't remember exactly. Quinn Ewers puts a ball right in JT Sanders' hands. And listen, folks, I know the pass was high. But it hit JT Sanders right in the hands. You got to catch that. If you're an NFL caliber tight end, you got to catch that ball. And I'm not trying to be negative towards JT Sanders. Just saying, man, that's a missed opportunity. He gets busted in the face. Ball goes up in the air. Oklahoma catches it. Turnover number 2 in 2 drives. They get pinned deep, obviously, on that one. Defense forces a 3 and out. Then a big block punt for a touchdown for Texas. Tie it up. That was 6 minutes of football. I mean, that was a lot of action, a lot of craziness packed into one short, not even half of a quarter of football. Just like the 2021 season, that was the longest first quarter of football I think I've ever seen, man. The game against Oklahoma in 2021, the first quarter must have lasted 45 minutes. Or maybe even an hour. Actually, I think it was an hour. The first half of this game on Saturday took about 2 hours. So just ridiculously long. Going back to my keys to the game on Friday, Texas was 0.5 out of 4 on the keys to the game. First key was be the storm. Show up, play hard, be the reason, be the chaos. And I think OU was the storm for the majority of this game. They had turnovers. They played physically hard. They had big plays offensively, big plays defensively. Every time it looked like Texas might start to kind of get back in it and get some momentum, grab some momentum, Oklahoma punched them right back in the mouth. Number 2, key for the game for Texas was to control both lines of the scrimmage. They did not do that. Texas offense gave up, I think it was 5 sacks. I know it was a ton. I was trying to keep count during the game, but I probably lost count. Somewhere around 5 sacks. It's way too many. It seemed like every time Quinn Ewers dropped back to pass, they were getting pressure on him. I didn't feel like the defensive line got a lot of pressure. I remember one play where it looked like, I think it was Tavondre Sweat, got some good push up the middle and dumped Dylan Gabriel after he threw the ball. And then I think there was a play where Anthony Hill probably got credited with a sack. Couldn't really tell during the game. Where he ran him down on the sideline. It looked like it was for a loss. They failed to maintain rush discipline a whole lot in this game. And I wouldn't say the defensive line got dominated. Certainly not the way the offensive line did in the past game. They just weren't very disciplined, and they gave up some big plays on the ground because of it to Dylan Gabriel. Then you got to look at 1st and goal from the 1. 0 fucking points. Just an absolute fuck of a series of plays. And I don't even, you know what? A lot of people are pissed off about the play calls. I'm not. I mean, it could have you could have done something differently, sure. I mean, you could have spread it all out. You could have ran 4 different formations. But you know what? If you're the Texas Longhorns and you got the ball on the 1 fucking yard line against anybody in college football, you ought to be able to run the ball 3 times and get the ball in the end zone. I mean, really, you ought to be able to do it in 2 plays. And you kind of look at like the probability of any run play, and I don't know what the success probability is, but certainly let's just make it a coin flip. One play, the defense is probably going to do better than the offense, and the other play, the offense should do better than the defense. I don't mind the faith in the offensive line at all. I mean, the only thing I think you could look at is that by this point, this was 4th quarter. I think. Maybe I'm off on that. I do know this. Jake Majors was already out at center, and the kid that was playing center hasn't played a lot of football for Texas. I believe he's a redshirt freshman. And again, folks, I'm going to say I believe a lot, and I think a lot during this Exaggeration Monday because I do not watch the film. I don't watch clips. I don't go look at stats. This is all brain dump from my thoughts that I had while watching the game and in the case of the Red River Shootout coming home from the game. So I don't think this kid's played a lot of football. Our backup center is already hurt. Cole Hudson. He's been hurt since the Wyoming game, I believe. So that was literally the 3rd string center. So maybe if you got a leg to stand on with bitching about the play calling, you could say, why run the ball right up the middle with a 3rd string center that hasn't played a whole lot of football, that to that point had been struggling a little bit. And actually, you know, the more I think about what I saw his ass get pushed down a bunch, man. And that, you know what? That's football. That happens. But the more I think about it, that kid didn't play that bad. Well, we'll know tomorrow. We'll know more after this afternoon because I'm I'm going to rewatch the game probably this evening, and we'll get ready for our show tomorrow, the after action review, where all of our thoughts will actually be based on things that we know happened and statistics that actually happened. Nonetheless, the offensive line just got their ass was whipped 3 straight plays. I don't think they gained a yard. In fact, I think they lost yardage. I think the first play was a net 0. The second play, which I did not like the second play. Like, if I'm going to bitch about it, I'm going to bitch about that second play call. I don't know why you pitched the ball. I don't know what that gets you. The only thing I can think of is Steve Sarkisian saw that linebacker come down hard inside, shoot that gap and make the play. I think it was a linebacker. Might have been a safety. I don't know. For Oklahoma. Really got through the gap early. Made the play in the backfield. So maybe Sark's thinking they're going to do that again. Maybe we can get outside of them. I don't know. I did not like the pitch. I don't like handing it off that deep. I damn sure don't like pitching it, man. Too much bad shit can happen. Nonetheless, I think they might have got a little bit on that one. And then I think they got a little bit on the play before, but they didn't gain a whole lot of yardage in 3 plays. Then, of course, they have the pass play, the little slip screen out to Xavier Worthy that gets stopped on the, 1 foot line, something like that. Key number 3 was limit the big play we had talked about on Friday. On Prediction Friday, we talked about how susceptible Texas has been to the big play through the air and the big play on the ground, how it hasn't happened a lot, but when it's happened, it's been big. They've given up touchdowns in both ways. Obviously, they did not limit the big play against Oklahoma. At some point in this game, I want to say it was the first quarter, Dylan Gabriel sees a one-on-one matchup, gets the ball down the field. Oklahoma wide receiver makes a really nice play on the ball. I didn't think the coverage was great. Didn't think the coverage was bad either. But the thing that some of these teams do, and there's nothing in the world wrong with it, I don't understand why Texas doesn't try it more. It seems to me like on the deep ball, Texas tries to be too perfect with the ball. Instead of just going, man, that's a one-on-one matchup. My guy's already looking back. The other guy is trying to run and see where he's at the same time as try to look back and catch the ball. I'm just going to put this ball anywhere in the vicinity of this guy and let him go make a play. And that's exactly what happened. It wasn't a great throw at all. It wasn't even a good throw. It was just out there. And credit the kid from OU. He saw the ball, saw where it was going, made an adjustment, caught the ball. Big play number 1. Dylan Gabriel had a shit ton of big plays in the ground game and not even designed. Just piss poor effort. Not even piss poor effort, just piss poor discipline, I think, in the pass rush. They just got out of their lanes. I don't know if they were missing stunts. I don't know if they just didn't execute what they should have executed. But there were some times where that right in front of Dylan Gabriel just split like the Red Sea. He was able to pick up several key plays on that, including one really big one in the fourth quarter. Two big passing plays on the final drive. I think it took them, I don't know, maybe 15 seconds to go from the 25 to across the 50. Thought the open field tackling was just absolutely terrible in this game. I've been commenting all season about how good the tackling has looked. Man, it did not look good on Saturday. At all. But, I mean, if you're going to play 12 yards off the freaking wide receiver, it's hard to come up and make a tackle in a one-on-one situation. I'll tell you this about Oklahoma and their offense. There's two things about it. They spread you out. They put you in situations where you're in a tough situation. You got to either over defend the pass and hope you get lucky on the run, or you got to stack the box and hope your guys can hold up in man-to-man coverage. I mean, they line up sideline to sideline. They put a lot of pressure on you. They use motion very well, and the other thing they do, holy shit, they've got to be one of the fastest teams in the college football on offense and just lining up and running plays. They absolutely maximize their time with the ball in their hands. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure we've seen it before, but I don't think I've ever seen an Oklahoma team go that fast. I don't think maybe I've ever seen any team go that fast that Texas was playing. So there wasn't a lot of opportunity to sub people in and out. And once you were out there, you're kind of just out there, and you had to figure out really quickly what the next defensive call was going to be, how to get lined up for it. Because they don't just line up in the same formation over again. They move around. Got to like that about Oklahoma's offense and their game plan. I don't know if they do that every week. I haven't got a chance to see them play a whole lot this season, but they certainly did that against Texas in this game. Quinn Ewers doesn't need to win it, we said. Just distribute the football. Protect the football. He did not do that. First interception was absolutely garb. Terrible. Fucking cannot throw that pass. I don't know what he thought he saw, but you can't do it. I think the second interception should have been a catch. I wouldn't call that one on Quinn Ewers. And then I think the fumble was just a bad decision. It was a competitive play, you know. A lot of times you make the biggest mistakes when you lose your head and just try to be competitive. Quinn Ewers doesn't need to be taking hits like that. One, because he's not that big and he can't handle it in the first place. Two, because he's not an experienced runner, and exactly what happens when you get hit like that is what happens. You lose the ball. I thought he did really well just distributing the ball. He didn't have Sanders most of the game, but they got Helm in the mix. Gunnar Helm with his his second. I can't remember. Definitely caught a touchdown pass in this game. But I think after he settled in after those first two interceptions, man, he was really good the rest of the game. I don't know the stats, but it was a lot, and it was a lot of completions and a really, really high completion percentage. I think our prediction for this game was mostly right. We said slow start. We said run game's going to wear on Oklahoma, and later on they'll pick up some big plays in the running game. We said Jordan Whittington looks like he might have a really big game. And again, I don't know the stats, but he caught a lot of passes. Would have been even bigger if Quinn Ewers sees him on a key third down at some point again. I think it was fourth quarter. I might be wrong. But there was a play, third and, I don't even know how far it was, third and medium maybe, 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7. Quinn Ewers gets flushed out of the pocket, and he's running to his right. And he's got Worthy over there running some comeback stuff, maybe a little corner out over the backside. But coming across the field was Jordan Whittington, just absolutely wide the fuck open. Nobody within 20 yards of him. And I guess, obviously, Quinn Ewers just didn't see him, because that would have been you couldn't have messed that throw up. I guess you could have. We shouldn't say that. I don't think Quinn Ewers would have messed that throw up. Instead, he tries to throw the little comeback to Worthy. Worthy's covered really well. Not even a chance to complete it. Even if he would have completed it, I don't think it would have been a first down. But I think Whittington had a big game. Seemed like he caught a lot of balls. Seemed like a lot of them were for big yardage. And then we said we thought one of the defenses was going to make an impactful play in this game, and we were hella right on that. And actually, we were kind of wrong on that, because it wasn't just one impactful play. I think OU did it a whole lot in this game. Goal line stand was huge for them. Multiple turnovers. The Texas defense just never, I know they got some stops, but they just never really made a huge impact play. They had an opportunity down in the end zone to intercept a pass. They didn't. Oklahoma gets the field goal. Couldn't really get a lot of pressure on Dillon Gabriel. It seemed like the Texas and again, we haven't watched the game, but being at the game, it seemed like they folded more under or folded during those critical times more than they actually won those critical times. Had Texas 31-23, ends up being 34-30. OU, got to give OU credit. Man, they were the more physical team on the line of scrimmage. I felt like the whole game, most of the game for sure. Dillon Gabriel again made a ton of big plays through the air and with his feet. And then that OU defense did just enough. Multiple turnovers, goal line stand. I mean, I don't think it matters what teams are playing. If you just say one team has multiple turnovers and a goal line stand, who won that game? You're probably going to go with the team with multiple turnovers and won the goal line stand. Where do these Longhorns go from here, man? As devastated as all of us fans were, and we sure were, that was like a nut punch of a fucking game, man. Again, the whole game, it's looking like Texas doesn't really have a chance. And when that lead got stretched to 10, you can just kind of feel it in the stadium on the Texas side, like, oh shit. Like, here we go again. And then Texas battles back, gets it tied, and then takes the lead with 1:17 left, and you're just like, almost like we did it. And here's another thing. I remember we tied the game with about 6 minutes left to go in the game, because I remember just kind of looking at my wife and looking at the folks around us and saying, all right, go win the next 6 minutes. And then damn near did it, man. And then just a complete sort of uncharacteristic just meltdown by the defense. No timeouts. Oklahoma had no fucking timeouts. Had to go 75 yards. And they did it in about a minute and scored a touchdown. Win the freaking game. So again, as sick as all us fans are, you got to know the players are sick. These guys put all their time, all their heart, all their soul into these games. I think just like we're mentally and emotionally drained as fans, these guys got to be mentally and emotionally drained. Got to come back and play smarter. Can't have the turnovers. Can't have the bad penalties. Now, something that gets lost in the penalty game or the turnover discussion is, really, Texas only gave them the ball 3 times, but they really had 5 turnovers in this game. They had them stopped early in the game. Texas decides to go after another punt, and I was watching. I can't think of his name right now. Robinson. Number 7, Keelan Robinson. I was watching Keelan Robinson because Keelan Robinson was my special teams MVP. Preseason special teams MVP, Keelan Robinson. He's blocked kicks before. I don't know if he's the one that got the kick early. I didn't see who got it. But I see him kind of move in from the cornerback position down the line, and as soon as the ball snapped, he's coming, and he slipped. He slipped on his move, and at that point, when I say play smarter, you gotta be smarter there. You if you slip, you're probably not making it, man. And I know it was a total effort penalty. You can't get mad at these kids for trying their asses off. That's for sure. But I just think you got to know when to do it and when not to. And if And I'm sure it was called. It was a called deal, and that's fine. They got the one before that. So I don't have a problem with the call. But I think you got to be smarter during the play. If you slip and fall down, you're not blocking the kick, man. So really rough spot. I think OU goes down the field on that one and gets a field goal. I'm not 100% positive, but I'm pretty sure that's what happened. Physically, the bye week couldn't have come sooner for these guys. I know they're beat up from that game. That was a hard-hitting game. I mean, Oklahoma brought the hat the entire game. 6 games in, so the bye week comes at a perfect spot, right in the damn middle of the season for Texas. I don't think you could ask for a better timing on that. I think this team's just got to get back on its horse. This is a point where we saw in 2021 this team just fucking melted down. Just absolutely shit down their legs the rest of the season. They lost 5 games in a row, I think. With a Texas OU game being the start of that. 4 of those were games they had double-digit leads in the fourth quarter. I mean, Sark's been talking about how resilient the team is, and you've seen it on the field. I feel like they have been resilient most of the season. But this is definitely a time where they got to bounce the hell back and just forget this game. You just got to forget it, man. It's over. There ain't shit you can do about it anymore. You just got to forget it, move on. They got to get mentally refocused, and I know it's super cliche, but everything they wanted to attain this year is still out in front of them. Big 12 championship is still attainable. We've seen one-loss teams get into the playoff. I think if Texas can win out, beat a undefeated Oklahoma team in the Big 12 championship game, depending on what happens other places, I'm not saying it'd be a lock, but if they're going to take a Big 12 team, if that's the way it ends up working out, it'd be really hard not to pick Texas in that scenario after a 4-point loss where they had multiple turnovers, failed on a first and goal from the 1, had multiple key injuries during the game. I don't know. It'd be tough to see that being a thing that happens. So I still think they're a really good team. They just got to figure out a way to start quicker, and they got to figure out a way to not have these types of mistakes, man, because they will just absolutely kill you. I think the other key for them is they got to get healthy. Watts was out this game. I still don't really know the nature of his injury, but I know he was a game-time decision. Majors gets hurt in this game. I don't know what the deal is with him. I think he's okay. I don't think he got carted off. Maybe just a twisted leg, twisted ankle. I'm not 100% sure. Cedric Baxter still ain't 100% healthy. Kelvin Banks looked like he was limpy. Kelvin Banks was wearing a boot in the Thursday night pep rally thing. You got Cole Hudson. Hopefully we can get him back. He's depth at center. Backup center, backup guard. Chris Ross was playing really, really well from the defensive end position. He gets hurt in the Wyoming game, hasn't been back since. I know Sark was hoping they'd get Hudson and Ross back for this game. I think he said 3 to 4 weeks, so the 4th week is the bye week. Surely those guys will be back by Houston unless they've re-aggravated something. We harp on this a whole freaking lot. I don't understand. Run the fucking ball. Jonathan Brooks leads the Power 5 in rushing, I'm pretty sure. Why do we need to start every single goddamn game with the sideways fucking pass that goes backwards? I don't understand. Why do we continually come out pass happy? I don't understand. I feel like Sark is ridiculously stubborn about this running game shit. And I think it cost them. I think it's cost them wins before last season. I think you could argue that it cost them a win here. I don't know what the stats are. I don't know how many rushes we had in the first half. I don't know what the average looked like at that point. We'll dig into all that stuff for tomorrow's show. But again, just watching live as Drunk Sean in the Cotton Bowl, I don't even feel like we really attempted to get the running game going that much in the first half. I think it was the second quarter before we really made an effort to get any kind of running game going, and it worked. It is going to continue to cost this team if they continue to sideline their best weapon by just not utilizing him. As good as all these offensive weapons are at the pass catching positions, Jonathan Brooks is your best fucking weapon on this offense. Him and the offensive line, whatever it is, whatever combination of who's the best and who opens the holes, it doesn't matter to me. That's your best option. Run the fucking football. Oklahoma comes out in 2 deep safeties, good numbers in the box, and we're passing it all over the damn place. I think we need to ditch the prevent defense like forever. I think it's antiquated. I bet if you looked at the percentages of times when teams run the prevent defense, after a certain amount of time, the percentages, not statistics, the percentages would tell you don't do it. I bet. I haven't looked into it, but I bet you. I can't remember the last time you actually saw prevent defense work to keep somebody from kicking field goals or scoring touchdowns late in the game. We recruited all these kids to play press man coverage. Why are we lining them up 12 yards off the ball in the most pivotal time in the game? At the end of the second half, at the end of the first half, they did it. At the end of the second half, they did it. And Oklahoma was able to score both times. I've been on the PK bandwagon all this season, man. The defense has played really good, but that was just shit. 2 plays. It took them 2 plays to go from the 25-yard line to across the 50-yard line. 2 fucking plays. You know why? Because everybody at the snap ran backwards, and there was a big-ass hole in the middle of the field with nobody there to cover it. Texas got to reverse the turnover mojo. They haven't taken it away at all in the last 2 games, I don't think. And we've given the ball up 4 times. 6 again if you count the running into the kicker and the turnover on downs, which I do. 6 times. -6 in the last 2 games. Well, I guess you'd call it -2 because pretty sure Texas turned Oklahoma over on downs too. Anyway, we'll dig into that some more tomorrow. But again, I think the new clock rule, man, you can't afford to limit your possessions. You can't give them to the other team. Seems like clock management showed up again. We talked about it at the end, we talked about it for the KU game. Sark goes into halftime with 3 freaking timeouts in his pocket. This time it looked like we got the ball. I think we got the ball on the second to last drive, the one they kicked the field goal to get the lead. I want to say it was a little less than 5 minutes. And it sure seemed like we ran a whole lot of plays in that 5 minutes, enough that you probably could have ran the clock out. Again, Sean live drunk watching. I could be totally wrong about this. We'll watch the broadcast tonight, this afternoon, this evening, sometime. We'll see what live game drunk watching Sean got right. We'll see what he got wrong. And we'll talk about all that on the After Action Review tomorrow at noon Central Time. Just a quick Horn Takes Travel and Roadshow update. Was able to get the camera in, got the monopod in. I think we got some good footage. I haven't got a chance to look at it all yet. Had a bunch of people come up to me and tell me hello and tell me they like my TikToks and enjoy watching me. And all. Man, I appreciate that so much. Really felt cool. Felt good. Sorry, my throat, man. Still haven't recovered from game. There's a guy on TikTok that hates when I talk about how sore my throat is after games. So this one's for you, buddy. Can't remember your name. And then we had a lot of people respond to our TikToks over the weekend and say, man, I saw you at the fair. I tried to get over to you. It was just too crowded. So, again, appreciate all the support. I don't know. I just never thought people would come up to me at the Cotton Bowl and say, hey, man, I love your TikToks. But it happened multiple times. Real quick, some random college football thought. We were going to have two, but we're running out of time. We'll do one. And I think we're going to make it, what the fuck was Miami doing at the end of that game? 30 seconds, third down, kneel the ball, and the game is over. Instead they run the ball. Georgia Tech takes the ball, and then they throw a long touchdown pass to win the game. Holy shit, that's the craziest ending. You know, I think about the nut punch it was to beat Texas this weekend, and it was a nut punch. I'm glad that didn't happen to us. You talk about like questioning coaches, which is always going to happen. You're everybody. I mean, you're always going to, when things don't go right at the end of the game and there's a reason you can point to and say they should have done this, you're always going to have people that do that. But I don't know what the hell Mario Cristobal and his staff were thinking. That was just next level stupid. Like next level dumbassery by the Miami coaching staff. Lost a game because they apparently didn't know you could just down it and run the clock out. So at least we're not Miami, Texas fans. Interesting thing on that play, to me, it looked like the Miami running back's elbow was down before the ball got stripped, which is just a little foreshadowing for some of what we'll talk about sometime this week. Tomorrow, maybe Thursday, not 100% sure, but we're definitely going to talk about the absolute ass that college football officiating has been. And really, it's across all sports these days. Officiating is just god-awful terrible. I mean, like some motherfuckers need to start getting fired for how bad they are at their jobs on this officiating stuff. Like, there's too much money involved. There's too much on the line during these games for people to miss calls the way they're missing calls. And again, it's not just Texas games. I see this all the time. I scream at officials all the time watching college football. They got to figure that. And it's all sports. It's NFL. It's baseball. Basketball is atrocious. Don't even want to. I'm not a huge basketball fan, but basketball, it just sucks. Check us out tomorrow on the After Action Review, Red River Shootout Edition. We're going to watch this game. We're going to find out if what we thought during the game was accurate. We'll have all kinds of stats. We'll know what happened during the game instead of thinking we knew what happened. Have some more random college football thoughts. And again, we'll talk about these officials at some point. Check out the podcast anywhere you listen to podcasts. Check us out on Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube at Horn Takes. You can email me at horntakespodcast@gmail.com with all your questions, comments, concerns, and criticisms. I love them all. You guys get hooked. Hope you guys are having a good Exaggeration Monday.